Welcome back to the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. It is a Monday morning, June the 17th, 2024. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BOL, alongside senior recruiting editor right there next to me. That's Andrew Bone, of course. And then down there in the center square, the one, the only site publisher, Tim Watts. And guys, a lot of stuff to get into, obviously, from the weekend. And then also just transitioning right into some more official visits. So we'll get into all of that as we move throughout the program. But wanted to start with the official visit weekend that was a couple of commitments for the Alabama Crimson Tide and punter Alex Asper-Ruhoff, a Californian who, when you think about where James Burnip is at in his eligibility, I guess, guys, it makes sense, Tim, to go with a specialist in this class. And then we'll also get into the commitment of London Simmons from the state of Mississippi, another Freddie Roach pickup from the Magnolia State. Tim, let's start, though, with the first commitment of the weekend, Asper-Ruhoff. I know you are a noted punter sort of analyst here. So, of course,
Uh,
we want to get you
yeah.
going first and foremost.
What a setup. This is a complete setup for everybody watching. Look, with punters and kickers, I've said it. I don't know if they're good or not. I mean, I know if they're good when I watch them, but how they project, and you look at the NFL and the majority of punters and kickers are guys that were undrafted. We don't know where the school is. We had to Google it. All I know here is he had offers, and a lot of punters are just preferred walk-ons, right? This is a scholarship player. I think Florida was in the mix. He had visited there, and he had
Oklahoma.
other school Oklahoma. He had other schools that were pushing for him. If you're a punter with 3 Power 5 offers, and we're talking Alabama, Florida, and Oklahoma, some pretty big name schools. I'm going to assume you're pretty good. Had to let committed. He talked about excited to commit. This was on Saturday in the afternoon. He just like, sure, can I commit, coach? Can I commit? So he took off, and happened very fast too. Came to the special teams camp, punted his butt off, and got a scholarship. Now he's committed. Here we are.
There you go. There's your hashtag analysis from Tim
Uh,
Watts. Is only he can do it where
Punted his
punters are
butt off.
concerned.
That is
But
hard
look,
hitting
guys,
analysis.
punters are people too. And punters are kind of like attorneys, right? No one wants to really talk to one until they really need one, right? When you don't have a
that's
punter or a kicker,
oh
that's when
boy.
you start talking about punters and kickers. Oh my God, we don't have one. I need one right now. So I think it's some good forward thinking from this staff, and sort of, again, trying to make sure that replacement to James Burnip in a year's time, who has continued to develop at a very high level. It's a good thing. And watching this guy a little bit, watching Alex and some of his huddle tape, this is a guy who can do kickoffs too. So he has some ability in that regard, and does show a lot of potential in terms of not only being able to flip the field at 6'3" and about 200 pounds, but also in terms of those hang 10 opportunities, pinning opponents down inside their own 15, inside their own 10. So a sensible addition, I would say here. Kind of reminds me of Eddie Pinheiro a little bit. You guys remember Eddie from,
Yeah.
that's going 5 or 6 years ago, kind of lit it up on the camp circuit, and the offers started coming. And then the next thing you know, he made 2 or 3 different commitments. But it looks like Alex Asper-Ruhoff is the Crimson Tide's commitment here for the 2025 cycle. So, guys, let's talk about London Simmons too, because defensive line, that had been an area, Andrew, when we think about the commitment list to this point of the 2025 cycle, pretty much been limited to just one guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a position that's probably asked about, more than any other position on the BOL roundtable on a yearly basis. Who's Alabama going to be able to get on the defensive front? Who are they targeting? Who are they still involved with? All this kind of stuff every single year, and it's always around this time of the year. Alabama usually has about 1, maybe 2 defensive line commitments, and who's going to fill out those remaining needs? And other on Saturday, or excuse me, on Sunday, they were able to get London Simmons on board. This is a 6'3", 300-pound defensive tackle that lost about 40 pounds during the offseason. A lot of schools a lot of programs didn't know about him until the spring. Coach Freddie Roach, defensive line coach at Alabama, went out and saw him, evaluated him. offered him on April the 24th. He decided to come back or come to campus for the very first time on May the 31st to participate in Alabama's football camp. Did really well out there. So wasn't just a camp offer, but he came to camp and showed out in front of the coaching staff, and that really impressed them. Came back for the official visit this past weekend, decided to go ahead and jump on board. We see this stock kind of rise over the last month or so. New offers: Florida State, LSU. Took an official visit to NC State. Was supposed to visit Arkansas this weekend, but those visits have been canceled. He jumps on board, and you get a big guy in the middle. And now Antonio Coleman, who committed, flipped back from Auburn to Alabama back in the spring, a little bit of a more of a defensive end, could potentially grow into a defensive tackle, but he's 265 pounds. This is a big guy. This is a 300-pounder in the middle that we know that Alabama is excited to get on board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tim.
and you're watching him too, just for the record. This is him at 340. And if you'll look, it's not, we saw Tim Keenan, who just kind of bull rushed people. Watch this guy. He's got moves. He can rush you. He's going to shed his block, use his hands well, and he's very quick off the ball. So imagine this guy at camp in front of Freddie Roach, minus 40 pounds. And you kind of get the picture of what he probably looked like.
Yeah, you saw him right there as we run the huddle clips here of London Simmons. Nice job inside, as Tim alluded to, as a pass rusher and winning a one-on-one to make a play on the quarterback. And then that second clip, he shows you he can blow up a puller too on that counter action and kind of disrupt things. And so you talked about it, Andrew, a little bit in terms of the variety, right, that this staff is looking for in defensive linemen, ends, tackles. Still trying to fill some areas in some different spots, it sounds like.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, they certainly want to get some more help on the interior. They got a big target coming in this weekend, Josiah Sharma, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. But they still looking for some needs right there. I think they would like to add, 3, 4 total defensive linemen in this class. Could potentially look in the transfer portal for some additional help, because they're probably going to lose some great players from their team they have on the roster this upcoming season, potentially to the NFL draft. So kind of have to wait and see how the numbers shake out there. But they've had some great visitors on campus this month, and this was a big get. I know that they're excited. Like I said, they evaluated them in camp. A lot of kids don't come to camp. A lot of 25 guys that are going to be seniors don't attend camp anymore. They just go on official visits, and that's pretty much it. If they have 10 plus scholarship offers, they're not wasting time going to high school football camps anymore. And this is one of the few guys that attended camp, showed out in front of the coaching staff, and they really put the full court press on him. He told us at BamaOnLine, after he got that offer from Freddie Roach on April the 24th, and all the way up until he attended camp, he was hearing from the Alabama staff 3 to 4 times a week. So that shows you that there was heavy, heavy interest in him. It didn't just start when he came to camp a couple of weeks ago. It started back in April.
Tim, always interested too to see exactly who has offered with different prospects. And so when I see an LSU offer, I think Bo Davis right now immediately, because he has made the move from Texas back to his alma mater there at LSU. So sure, Freddie Roach has done this long enough that you should be able to trust his evaluations and his ability as a recruiter. But if you need a little bit more validation, there is that with London Simmons.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one more thing. I mean, how many Mississippi 3-star defensive linemen have we went on to see have really good college careers? I mean, it's odd because in the day of huddle, everything's so wide open. Mississippi still, you find guys hidden there more than anywhere else, guys that pop up who come in and do their job. And I know the first initial reaction of the fan base is to look at a player's ranking. Even at 340 pounds, this guy's he's an enforcer. He has a lot of potential when you look at it. I mean, we saw Jaheim Otis bigger than 340 pounds, and he was kicking off. So, I mean, we saw, we've seen these guys that athletic and the big body. You can't have enough interior defensive linemen, rotating them in and out, leaning on the offense. And when you look at this guy, I think if you just stop and look at his film, there's going to be stuff that you like about him. And again, it's not a one-trick pony of, hey, I'm bigger than you and, just running you over. I mean, he's very quick off the snap at 340 pounds. He used his hands. He had good pursuit. And I mean, he's kind of what you expect. But Mississippi, if anywhere in this country, someone can pop up out of the blue, Mississippi's still that state, and they produce a high volume of Division I athletes and NFL players, especially per capita.
No doubt about that. And all of this leads us to the question of who might be next to commit to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Again, double digit official visitors over the weekend. You're always interested to see what the reaction is, the immediate reaction is in that scenario. I know both you guys, along with Joseph Hastings, who, by the way, is going to join us here for some quad box in just a little bit, submitted predictions for another big commitment on the offensive line. It's one that we've talked about a good bit, Tim Watts. I would say maybe could be your favorite target for Alabama in the 2025 cycle when you think about Jackson Lloyd.
I think he's the most interesting and intriguing because, again, when you and I were growing up, and probably still when Andrew was growing up, there was 3 sport athletes. We saw guys play. When's the last time we've seen somebody play baseball, basketball, and football? They sneak in track. You see football, basketball, and track a little bit less imposing. But if you're playing baseball, you're doing summer workouts. Same with basketball and football, and he plays it at a high level. So that's one of the things. Also, when Courtney Morgan and Kalen DeBoer arrived, that was one of the first names we were told about. 3-star from Carmel. My first thought was, hey, Clint Eastwood was mayor. What the hell? Let me go dig in here. Just a beautiful part of the West Coast. So there's a lot of little things. Then you watch his film. I mean, it's his basketball film. He's dunking in transition. I had a video sent to me where he's inside the park home run, which is bananas at his size. And then his film. I mean, he's just a good player. And Alabama's did a really good job. When you worry about the 3-stars in June and May and April, a lot of those guys might not be 3-stars when we get to December, January, and February. We've seen that consistently, but Alabama's did a really good job. And Andrew and I and Joseph, we've shown a lot of restraint waiting for him to take this visit. And, Ohio State made a heck of a push. They were 100% all in. Other schools were too as well. Still has a visit to USC. We're going to wait and see if that happens. But I think Alabama, at the end of the day, were there. They were there from when they were at Washington, and they were there when they were at Alabama. So I think they did a really good job.
Continuity, Andrew, sounds like it's a big deal where Jackson Lloyd is concerned.
No doubt. And, this is, as Tim mentioned, this is a staff that has recruited him for a very long time, not just when they arrived in Tuscaloosa, but, last summer. I mean, he received an offer from Washington, I think last June on the 15th. So it's been over a year, since the initial contact was made with Coach DeBoer and Jackson Lloyd. So he knows everything there is to know about Coach DeBoer. Has a great relationship with Courtney Morgan. I think he's done a great job developing the relationship with that family. And he tweeted out on, I think it was January the 15th, that he had received the offer from Courtney Morgan. So, and that was 3 days after Coach DeBoer was hired at Alabama. So they were still trying to get their staff in place. They were still trying to recruit other kids on their team to stay in Tuscaloosa. But the very first offer that we saw that got extended by Coach DeBoer and his staff was to Jackson Lloyd. So we'll see if it comes full circle here, maybe soon. But I think Alabama's done a great job, and the relationship there goes way back, and they've put themselves in prime position with Jackson Lloyd.
Yeah.
One more thing. How quick was Jackson here for an unofficial visit? I mean, I feel like it was like
less than 2 weeks.
I think he beat some of the Alabama current coaches here. You know what I mean? That's the respect. That was he beat his offensive line coach here, That was still the Grub era. So, I mean, that was that's another note. He was pretty excited about his too. So a lot of things fell in line here for Alabama and Jackson Lloyd.
Yeah, Tim talked about Carmel, California. That's not LA. That's not San Francisco. That's not Seattle. So he comes from a community. College town like Tuscaloosa might seem pretty inviting from that perspective as well, but would be an absolute big one if the Alabama Crimson Tide closes it out here, as many are predicting, including these two guys and the next guy we'll talk to in just a little bit. Dead period is upon us, guys. It feels like there's a real sense of urgency now as July grows closer. Tim, what are the things that have to be tied up, I's dotted, T's crossed before you hit that dead period?
Well, I want to take 1 second and ask you guys to like and subscribe. I do my attempt. The other two guys do it better than I do, but we want you to like and subscribe. Give us the thumbs up. Still trying to catch Georgia. If that nothing motivates you better, then thumbs it up. We're trying to catch
They had a
Rusty
head
Midfield.
start. We're going to catch them,
They
man.
did have a head start, but we're walking them down like the SEC championship game. So we want you guys to like and subscribe, and also check out BOL. We've got $1 promotion right now, $1 for a month. I can honestly say every single person that works on BOL is worth 100 pennies. We at least 100 pennies, at least 100 pennies. So yeah, I
Euro
guess
too.
what they're doing,
Yeah.
I guess what they're doing now, I mean, they've got a youth camp today that's got 10,000 children. It sounds like at that camp. I mean, it sounded like it was heavy. I think they're trying to get through the official visits. This last weekend's coming in because it's been fruitful. I believe every official visits resulted in multiple commitments so far, at least two, including Chuck McDonald, who committed and came back the next week. So they've already got two from this one by Sunday night. So no telling what's going to happen between now and then. Then I think they got to catch their breath. They got a big event in July, and they're not having a lot of time right now to spend with their families, but I think it's definitely paid off from an effort standpoint. I think they did everything they needed to do, but you want to finish this offensive line. You want to finish this official visit. You got one more to go, and then Andrew's 20 plus commitments by August 15th. He might hit that thing by a month in advance.
I'm gonna hit it.
He tried to tell us.
I'd buy him free lunches as a winner, but already
fun of me. Not happening.
I mean, it'd be Andrew.
it
It'll
might
be
happen in
it'll be
July.
value menu, but it'll be free. You know,
It'll be yes. I'll still buy him free lunches. That's his reward. He might
oh
hit it by a month
gosh.
though.
Oh, hey Andrew. Is there a mystery position right now, or maybe a position with this 2025 class that we haven't talked enough about, in your opinion, that you could see maybe some things coming into play there?
I'm really intrigued to see what happens at tight end. They don't have any tight end commitments just yet. We've seen some guys that have visited campus. We had Andrew Olish out of Pennsylvania that visited that May 31st weekend. 2 weekends ago, you saw Nick Townsend out of Texas visit. This past weekend, UNC commitment Marshall Pritchett was on campus. And then starting today, Caleb Edwards out of California, 4-star out of California, taking an official visit with the Tide early this week. So it's still kind of up in the air who it's going to be. I mean, we kind of felt like exiting the spring that Nick Townsend was kind of in the driver's seat as to kind of being that guy in Alabama's class, but there's some other schools that have really pressed hard to get him, including USC, Texas A&M. I think he's probably going to take an official visit to Texas this weekend and then make a decision possibly within the next couple of weeks. So that's somebody that we're watching closely. But how this tight end class kind of shapes out is going to be interesting. Because you look back at last year, Alabama signed 2 tight ends on paper, Jay Lindsey and Caleb Odom. Well, now Caleb Odom's moved to wide receiver. So trying to see who's going to be that tight end in this class. We kind of thought maybe 2, but they just got to get one right now. Who's going to be that one tight end? Those are some of the names that we're still watching pretty closely. And you never know, they might end up going the transfer portal route if they don't find anybody that they really like and want in this class outside of the guys that they're currently recruiting.
So, Tim, as we previewed late last week, you had some Alabama commitments visiting elsewhere over the weekend. Is there a feel on those guys? Luke Metz tripping to Georgia, Duke Johnson to Auburn, Abdul Sanders to Tennessee. Where did Alabama sort of come out of the weekend with those guys? And you expecting some more visits when it comes to Alabama commitments?
I mean, it's pretty funny because, the linebackers, especially the inside backers, were such a joke. You got too many. We're going to get anybody, every commitment, could they play it? And then you looked up on Wednesday, we thought you had 4 inside backers going to other places, and not just anywhere. I mean, they would be going to Tennessee and Auburn and Georgia and Ohio State. Now, Jaden Harmon didn't make that visit. He could make it this week. We'll wait and see. But I just thought it was kind of ironic that hey, you might have – you might have hugged them quicker before they left the house. But I think Luke Metz, Steve, I mean, it wasn't even 10 a.m. And Steve Wiltfong, our excellent national guy, friend of the program, he asked Luke how his Georgia visit went. He was trying to do some, he does that move around and help the big visitor weekends and get small things. And Luke said, I'm 10,000% committed to Alabama. Joseph texted Duke Johnson, and he said, "Roll Tide forever," or something along that line. What was that quote, Andrew? Something along those. All I know is that he said that.
It wasn't Texas forever. It was, I think it was Roll Tide forever.
Yeah, it was Roll Tide forever. And then there was an argument. Like, some didn't feel good about it, which was pretty funny. That's a classic round table take. You get a little debate going on. But I think Mets for sure has been pretty solid. That's our indication. I think Duke's been one of the biggest recruiters on campus. I mean, him and Luke are the first ones in every Instagram, every tweet saying Roll Tide family and all that stuff. Abdul's been kind of quiet, but he comes this week. So Alabama's getting that last visit before the weekend. Tennessee had like 26 official visitors. So a lot going on there. We'll be catching up with all of them, but I think they withstood the storm for now. I think they did a good job. And I think you tip your hat to Kane Womack there, who picked out 8 guys. He felt he had to have 4. He got them and seems to have had a great relationship with all of them. Kane was ready to – he's that guy that went into ACT trying to finish in 30 minutes so he could leave. And he got it done.
Yeah, like he had a baseball game, right after the test or something.
Yes.
Mets is coming back in this weekend as well. So
okay.
Very cool. Hey, and all of this, by the way, from these guys and Joseph Hastings coming up, it's just scratching the surface here on our YouTube show. If you want all of the in-depth information, then BamaOnLine.com is where you need to be. The official visitor special continues to roll on at BOL. $1 for 1 month. That's right. That's all it's going to take to make you a part of our team right there at BOL. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would certainly hope you would do that as well. Hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops. And as always, we'd appreciate a like if you got one to spare there. And with that, it is time, guys, to Quad Box. We bring in our guy. There he is.
Yeah,
Joseph Hastings
our
on a
fourth
Monday
leg.
morning.
Our fourth leg is here.
Yeah, he's the guy that we hand the baton to as we start down the stretch here. He won't blow a hamstring like the old guys. The old guys here, cramping, pulling up with a hamstring.
Me and Travis are secretly stretching our legs to this desk. We got like a hammy tightening up.
It's 1,000 degrees outside, and we got 2 guys on this channel wearing hoodies.
It's a cold summer. It's a cold summer, man.
It is.
Joseph Hastings.
See, Joseph delivering right out the gate.
Hastings with the promo.
Yeah.
But me and Joseph would like to know, we're not outside, Andrew. We're inside.
Your house 30 degrees?
I mean, it's a cool 70.
Yeah.
It's a cool. You're wearing a hat indoors. I mean, we're not calling you out. I mean, you worry about rain? What's happening there?
Yeah, I am.
So Joseph, like you guys, has submitted an RPM for Jackson Lloyd to Alabama. Of course, Lloyd on the official visit to Alabama over the weekend. But as we know, a number of other very important visitors as well. And Joseph, we'll start there with you because I know you had a chance to communicate with Justin Hill and sort of his family about the events of the weekend, the elite edge defender from Ohio. That update, of course, all of it is at BamaOnLine.com. But give us a few items of interest that you took away from that interaction, JoJo.
Yes, I got to speak with Justin Hill's mom for the second time in the past couple of months. We got to speak last month after Alabama sent up Christian Robinson, Kane Womack, and Freddie Roach to go see them in Ohio. And look, she's made it very clear. Justin even has said it in our initial interview with them. She's an Alabama fan. She loves Alabama. She loves what they're all about. We jokingly say, she would have committed there a few months ago if she had the option to. Obviously, she made it very clear it's Justin's recruitment, but she had some great things to say about the visit, just talking about, the standard at Alabama, being able to be around the players, which honestly, it's kind of been the theme of the month. A lot of these guys have visited in the spring. Justin visited back on April 13th. So, it was more so about being able to spend a good amount of time with the players. You really got to like how they take part in the photo shoots too. That's not something that we see from a lot of schools, especially those top programs, the players being involved with those photo shoots, the player panel on Saturday. That's something that she talked very highly about, and we continue to hear great things coming out of these official visit weekends for. But, Yes, Justin's got a top 4 of Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. Just wrapped up this Bama official. Has Oregon this upcoming weekend, and then a decision on July 3rd. But Alabama's up there in the mix. That's what his mom said about their standing. They're very high up there. This visit did have an impact in terms of moving that interest a little bit higher. We'll see though. He's out of Cincinnati, Ohio, so beating out the in-state Buckeyes is always going to be a challenge for players out of Ohio, but Alabama's definitely in the mix for his recruitment.
Again, more on Justin Hill available to you right now at BamaOnLine.com with that fantastic update from Joseph Hastings. Andrew, wanted to ask you about a couple of running backs who are committed elsewhere, who were also in town over the weekend, and kind of your feel for A.K. Deere and Harry Dalton as we move forward.
Yeah, so Alabama hosted A.K. Deere, who's committed to Ole Miss back in March, and then Harry Dalton, who is a USC commitment, also committed to the Trojans in March, and both those guys were on campus for their official visits. Dalton was a little bit of a late surprise. We reported the visit on Thursday night at BOL, and this is a kid who earned an offer from Nick Saban last summer at the Tides camp, but hadn't returned to campus until this past weekend. But relationship kind of stayed strong with Robert Gillespie, and they've continued to contact each other throughout the year, and finally made it to campus, meeting with Coach DeBoer and the staff. And from what we heard, Alabama really likes this kid a lot. He's going to take an official visit out to USC this weekend, and then probably make a decision. I don't think this is a situation where Alabama is waiting on anyone else to make a decision. One of these guys that they would love to take had over 2,900 yards of offense last season, 42 total touchdowns, plays quarterback for his high school team, but still rushed for over 1,200 yards last season. So we're watching Harry Dalton a little bit closer these days than we were this time a week ago. And now you have A.K. Deere, who's been on Alabama's recruiting board for a long time, visited Tuscaloosa almost as many times as he visited Ole Miss. But once again, he's an in-state kid for the Rebels, definitely a priority target, and definitely somebody that they want to keep on board as long as they possibly can, and especially through signing day. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Alabama made an impression. We saw some photos from the visit, seemed to have a good time. Seems to really like Alabama a lot as well. But same time, it's going to be kind of a marathon with him. I don't think anything's going to happen anytime soon. I think we're going to probably see this recruitment go through the fall. He's got an official visit set for A&M this weekend, and then we kind of hit the dead period and see if Alabama can potentially get him back a little bit later on this summer.
And again, a really extensive official visitor list from over the weekend. We've got all of those updates for you right there at BamaOnline.com. But Tim, wanted to ask you about two of those visitors specifically, Javion Campbell and also Malachi Goodman, an edge defender, an offensive tackle. Always got space for elite and high quality players at those spots. What are we gathering from their visit to Tuscaloosa, their visits?
Yeah, one of the funny things is we have guys, there's so many of the players we've talked about for so long, because some of these guys we've covered for months. And then there's guys we don't talk about much. Then the visit comes up, and then he's all we talk about. Chuck McDonald is a classic example. We spent 5 months talking about Dijon Lee every day. Naeem Alford, we talked about him since, inception. And then these things happen. So these official visits have went so well. I think these guys fall in that category with like Malachi Goodman. I mean, you're looking at a class, and, I think we're all on record at this point. Bama has a chance. This Alabama staff has a chance to sign the best offensive line class. And on paper, on recruiting ranking wise, they have a chance. They've got a couple of guys they're recruiting. They're in the top 30. They got 5-star guys in the top 10, so they could cover. But here's a guy, Goodman, that came in. Visit went very well. Alabama staff's doing a good job of recruiting not just the player, but the parents. We're hearing, I think a lot of these parents, they could fill up the class if you could take parent commitments. They love it. They might just give the kids up and go to school without them. But he's one that I think you have to watch. Again, like you said, it'd be hard to pass up on a guy like that. They've got so many options. But I think he made a good impression. And one I really liked and wasn't that familiar with was Javion Campbell from Kentucky. Big, long, athletic kid. Got a lot, look, there's a lot going on with both these recruitments, but probably with Campbell even more so. He's got a visit to Georgia lined up. He's been to Auburn, Miami. I think he's been to Kentucky. He's a home state kid. You know, Kentucky, when they circle their own, they do a good job of keeping those handful of guys they want. So they'll be tough to beat. But he's a long, athletic, basketball looking guy. We'll dig in a little bit more as the week goes on, but both visits went well. It's almost a cliche now to keep saying it. We haven't heard. I'll be honest, and Andrew and Joseph might correct. I haven't heard anything but like A+ reviews from these visits from the parents or the feedback from the coaches or the mentors. Alabama staff really seems to know how to host a party.
And, you know, Andrew, we kind of look at these weekends as the entree for official visits, right? And maybe you have one or two during the week that are kind of like appetizers. But man, these two guys that are going to be in Tuscaloosa over the next couple of days, when you talk about offensive weapons, and you talked about tight end earlier too, as it relates to this offense and, you know, who's going to end up in this class. But boy, an elite wide receiver and Khalid Lockett, and then also the tight end Caleb Edwards coming in. There's nothing appetizer about that duo. They are standalone entrees, and they're already going to be in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I think these are our first two kind of early week official visitors of the summer. I think everybody else has kind of been on the weekend. So these are two big visits for Alabama. With Khalid Lockett coming in, Joseph had a great interview with Khalid last week at BOL. Also spoke with Keelan Russell kind of about his pursuit of Khalid for this class. And Khalid was not a guy that mentioned Alabama as a top contender 2 weeks ago. And then Keelan Russell commits to Alabama, and all of a sudden, Khalid wants to take a trip to Tuscaloosa. So getting him on campus is big. Texas, LSU, all contenders in his recruitment. And I would say Alabama's probably on the outside looking in, heading into the visit. Now, that can completely change with a great official visit these next couple of days. So we'll see how the weekend go, or how the week goes. Wide receiver is kind of interesting because you still have one wide receiver commitment, Latzir Brooks. Travis Smith Jr. was on campus this past weekend. Then you have some big visits coming up this upcoming weekend with Caleb Cunningham and also Derek Meadows out of Vegas. So really intrigued to kind of see how the wide receiver position shakes out. And then Caleb Edwards, as we mentioned earlier, going to be visiting Tuscaloosa today, tomorrow, heads out on Wednesday. Alabama's still looking for that one tight end commitment in this class, and Edwards is one of the 4 or 5 guys who have visited Tuscaloosa this summer. So we'll see if they can get really involved there. I think Texas, Auburn have been very high on his list. Alabama, we'll see how big of a move they can make over these next couple of days.
Joseph, as Andrew mentioned there, a couple of Texans and Keelan Russell and Lockett. From what you were able to gather in that interaction there, how strong do you think that bond is, and how quickly can it become even stronger, perhaps?
Yeah, so obviously in this day and age, I posted this on the BOL roundtable, I think yesterday. Recruits just know each other, whether you're local, regional, or national. It seems like everybody knows Ryan Williams. Whether you're California, the Northeast, Midwest, wherever, Ryan Williams. So it's pretty easy to connect nowadays, at least a lot more now than before with camp tournaments, social media, etc. And Keelan and Khalid have been able to connect, and that conversation is literally what set up this trip. So when we talk about the impact of Keelan Russell committing to Alabama, especially at the time that he did, remember there is a scenario where Keelan Russell is still committed to SMU, and he's taking that official visit to Oregon this weekend, and then making his final decision afterward, which was kind of the initial plan. But getting him in the fold earlier allows him to reach out to somebody like Khalid Lockett, somebody like Ty Haywood, 5-star offensive lineman out of Texas as well. So, it kind of gets that recruiting momentum going and, gives yourself a leader on offense in this 2025 class. And, a top 100 guy who's a quarterback, in a talent-heavy state like Texas. You really can't go wrong with, getting someone like that in the fold. And he's going to be at the Elite 11 finals this upcoming week. We've had some questions about whether he'd be on that visit with Khalid. His obligations are in Los Angeles, but, that just him getting Khalid to consider this visit and then ultimately set it up really goes to show the impact of Russell being in this class.
It's that time of the program, guys, where we ask each of you for one to watch, one situation, one prospect, one scenario. And we're going to start with you, Tim Watts, here. And over these next few days, where are you particularly sort of zoned in on? Where's your focus? What sort of stands out to you right now?
I spend all week thinking about waiting for this question because my only goal is to take the one guy Andrew's thinking about right now. He's got his poker face on. He doesn't want to tip his hand. And I'm like trying to mentally get there just to irritate him so he can call me after this show and yell at me. One time I took two and they were both of his when I was only supposed to take one. But I'll tell you, I'm still watching, and it's kind of like a beat down subject to some degree. But I'm watching Dawson Merritt. It's our understanding he's got to come to a decision here in the next couple of weeks. I was speaking to Chad Simmons, another of our national guys who does a great job. So they were going on a family vacation at the end of June. Parents don't want this to be discussed on their vacation, as you can imagine, and they want it behind them. I think Alabama's still in it. I would give Alabama a slight edge if it was me personally. I would give Bama the slight edge, but I do think he's back and forth because he is comparing apples to oranges in a lot of ways. It's two completely different scenarios that he's having to come up with, which I think aids the confusion. Comparing Bama, Georgia, or Ohio State, Georgia, whatever you want to do, it's kind of the same thing. When you look at different things, different opportunities pop up, proximity to home factors in. So I'm still watching Dawson. I know everybody's, we expected this to be over in April. We're heading, we're moving into July. So, that's still the one I'm watching the closest. I'm the most curious about, I should say.
All right, Andrew. Tim got first pick. So did he take your guy? Did he take your situation?
I did not take his guy. There's no way he was. I did this time.
I got 10 guys I can mention. So I'm fine.
Nobody was thinking Dawson.
Bone rolls deep,
he used to have one. Then he had two, and I took them both. Now he has a.
He said he's got 10.
He has a dead sea scroll. He's got the whole visitors list.
I got a hat with a lot of names in it. As far as we talked about Jackson Lloyd earlier today, so I'm going to talk about somebody on the defensive side of the ball. Dejon Lee, 5-star cornerback, Mission Hills, California, is going to be taking his final official visit this upcoming weekend with Alabama, coming off an official to Georgia. And it's been a two-team race for the last few months between Alabama and the Bulldogs. Alabama seems to be trending there, but Georgia certainly not going down without a fight. They've been pushing hard, but Alabama's done a really good job recruiting Dejon Lee. And kind of like Jackson Lloyd, he was one of those first kids to receive an offer from Alabama in January, shortly after Coach DeBoer and his staff arrived. Courtney Morgan reached out to him, extended that offer. He visited Washington last year, so there is that relationship there with the coaching staff, and he's really hit it off with the new defensive guys as well. So Dejon Lee coming into Tuscaloosa this upcoming weekend, and then making that commitment on June the 28th, so a week from Friday. Dejon Lee, 5-star cornerback, going to be making that decision.
All right, JoJo, take us out of this segment with your one to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking at the receiver position this week. We mentioned Khalil Lockett taking that early week official visit starting today. Caleb Cunningham, 5-star wide receiver this upcoming weekend. Derek Meadows, top 100 receiver out of Bishop Gorman in Nevada, taking his official visit this weekend too. And I think it comes at a pivotal time, especially with somebody like a Caleb Cunningham, where after every single one of his visits, you kind of hear something different come out, leaving the state, or this school's my leader, or that school's my leader. So Alabama gets the chance to make that final impression on him before the period begins, where he's not able to take any visits. So, that's the one I'm going to be watching too. Also, Derek Meadows, we know he has high interest in Alabama, visited during the spring. And then also with Khalil, like we mentioned before, not having any interest in Alabama, or not as much interest up until Keelan Russell hit him up. How much could Russell being in this class and then him taking this official impact his recruitment? So I'm looking at the wide receiver position. Alabama obviously not looking for big numbers at the position group in this class. Already have Latsier Brooks in the fold, but I really I am interested in seeing how it plays out with those three coming up. And then, obviously they hosted Travis Smith this past weekend, as we talked about before. But the receiver position, that's what I'm looking at.
Pick one, and Joe's like, "I've got 4 for you."
Well, you said you were 10 deep.
So that's the situation.
That's the one he picked the sitch.
I told y'all Andrew's counting. I warned y'all that Andrew's counting. He's the one
Yeah.
telling on us after school. Tim used 3 crayons. You said we
Yeah.
could have 2, Miss Winters.
Yeah, he was hall monitor guy. Hall
He'll
monitor
throw you
kid.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tim's shorts are too.
Probably a patrol boy,
Tim's shorts are
crossing
past the
guard, the
knees.
whole
That's
thing.
illegal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, guys, as always, great stuff right here with us on the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. Again, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that right now. Bang that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. You get all of our YouTube content as it drops. Give us a like while you're at it, if you don't mind. Also, again, we have the official visit special at BOL right now. $1 for 1 month. Never been a better time. It's always a great time to join BOL, but this is a hell of a time to join BamaOnline.com. So make that happen right now as well. Guys, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I imagine we might be kicking that quad box, the duo box, and the trio box again this week, though.
Yeah, Jack in the Box. Yeah, we need
there's
that
a
for
lot.
a sponsor.
Yeah. That was it's been an interesting run here. Kept us on our toes. Hey, and thank you, Tara. I meant to say that earlier. We saw Bob Rutherford, some of the
The
staples,
crew. Yeah.
and y'all do a great job. Oh, she's in London. Hey, you're gonna have fun over there. You're gonna be like 6 hours away from us in the Central Time, but have fun. And we appreciate all y'all that say hello and jump in with the comments and all. And some of you are here every week. You're here more than we are. It's like you're waiting on us, and we want to thank you.
Absolutely appreciate all the views, all the listens, and of course, everyone that hangs out with us at BamaOnline.com. Great stuff as always, guys. Again, keep it locked right here to the YouTube home for BOL. But first and foremost, BamaOnline.com, the round table, our premium message board. No better place to get all of your information as it relates to the Crimson Tide than right there on the round table at BOL. For Andrew Bone, for Tim Watts, for Joseph Hastings, Travis Reier, thanking you once again for joining us on a Monday morning. And until next time, so long, everybody.